Hey everybody. Let's believe we are all live. We have sound. What's happening? What's crack-a-lackin', as they say. I am trying to get myself adjusted here. At any rate, good to see you. Happy to be here. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday so far. Monday. That's when it is. All right. I think I've got everything ready to go, and you should not be hearing an echo, which is awesome. So, yeah. Hi. Good to see you. Let us begin, as we do every Morbid Monday, with a quick look at what has landed here on the network since last we spoke. We've got Podcast by the Cemetery, brand new show here on legionpodcast.com, episode 5, the horror comic book adaptations episode. We've got Friends Till the End, part 10 from the Who Will Survive guys, and that is Andrew Huff is the friend until the end, till the end, not until. Friends Till the End, part 10, Andrew Huff. We have Podcast on Haunted Hill, episode number 64 on Mad Max and Wake and Fright, doing some, Aussie exploitation kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. You got your Psychosemantic podcast, episode 41. The title of that one is Survival of the Film Freaks. It's an interview with a co-director of cult movies, Bill Fulkerson, which is really cool. Again, it's one of those things I really dig, seeing, more interviews and whatnot. What is going on, Abraham? What else? What else did we drop? Oh, Cinema Beef Podcast, episode 121, called Beef Out of the Canon, which is talking about some canon films, which are just a delight, as always. What's going on, Joseph? What's happening, Michelle? What else did we put out? Oh, Pick 6 Movies, the finale of season 2 dropped with A Night of the Roxbury, which is... somebody pointed out, I think it may have been Joseph, as a matter of fact, who pointed out that you can tell how bad the movie is by how little we talk about it. And yeah, that's kind of where we landed on Night at the Roxbury. Was like, it's not, my attitude about was, it's not a terrible movie. There's just not that much to recommend it. With the exception of Molly Shannon, who is always a delight. We'll talk about her a little bit more here in a bit. What else? Rabbit in Red, the slasher summer series continues with the Toolbox Murders. I was on that episode, and yeah, we had a really fun conversation. Toolbox Murders is a really odd film. It's basically 2 movies. It's half slasher and half weirdo psychological horror film, kind of. Really interesting. But yeah, that was a really fun conversation. So if you haven't listened to it, check that out. I thought that all turned out real well. Kill the Cast presents a special episode featuring Jerry Herring. This one entitled Jerry Hates Action, where he discusses American Ninja 2 and Point Break. A little bit of inside baseball here. I have never seen Point Break. I haven't seen the original. Haven't seen the remake. Just never saw Point Break. And somehow passed me by. I know a lot about it. It's all over pop culture, but never seen it. One movie I have seen, on the other hand, is Dolomite, and that was featured on Cinema Psyops, episode 157, on the Movie Stack Jenga business there. And yeah, it is, Dolomite's a pretty great movie. I kind of prefer The Human Tornado, maybe. Anyway, if you've never seen Dolomite or The Human Tornado, you kind of should. Also, over the past 24 hours, Hero Go Show, new episode of that dropped finally, featuring 2 movies, Meatball Machine and Kodoku Meatball Machine, also with our pal Jerry Herring. And we also have the G-Spot business going on in that episode with our pal Court Psyops, where we talk about Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, and all that stuff was really fun. That I thought was a real fun show. Also, episode 8 of Friday the 13th dropped, which involved Children of the Corn. And the interesting thing about that, even though I haven't listened to that episode yet, is we are mere moments away. As soon as I get done with this, I'm going to sit down with the Friday the 13th guys, and we are going to record a special commentary on Children of the Corn. It's going to be the three of us chit-chatting during that film, and that will be one of the Patreon exclusive commentaries that will be coming next month. So yeah, so that's everything that dropped in the past week. You know, again, a lot of good stuff there. I'm part of 3 of those, which it seems so exhausting sometimes, but yeah, that was really fun. Joseph saying Pick 6 continues to be a fave. Thank you very much. It's super fun to do, but those when we're recording those, like we record those pretty quickly for the season, and it can be grueling. But yeah, I think that show is sort of a personal favorite of mine as well. Lee says, even with some of those really bad SNL sketch to movie things, you've got to give them credit for managing to make anything outside of 5 minutes manage to work. Yes and no. I mean, but that's the problem with some of those movies, right? Is that you've got a sketch that doesn't have a lot of meat to it. Like A Night at the Roxbury is a perfect example of that, where the sketch is really... The formula is you have some coked out guys trying to dance with girls. They, rub their dicks against said girls for a little bit. They get kicked out and they go to increasingly more desperate places to try to meet girls. And, it stretching that into feature length, like as we always do in those Pick 6 episodes, we're like, you know what would be a better movie? And I really feel like we hit upon what would make that a more interesting film. And my problem with that movie as a whole is that it tries to be too big, and as a result, there's just not enough character there for it to come together, really. So yeah. But thank you very much for listening to the Saturday Night Live episode. Live from New York was the name of that season. And if you heard the last episode of the season, then the next thing we're going to be doing is Monsters Are Universal is the name of the season. And we're going to be talking about kind of spin-offs of the Universal monsters, you know, like Dracula and the Wolfman and Invisible Man and stuff like that, but not those movies. So anyway, you'll have to tune in and see. Lee saying Pick 6 is good shit. Thank you again. I'll stop talking about it now, but I am proud of those episodes. Gary saying you can't take our dreams. Yeah, because we're like sleeping when we're having them. Oh right, yeah. Yeah, man. See, that's a movie that falls right out of my head. It's funny because we spent so much time talking about The Ladies' Man on the Night at the Roxbury episode, which shows you how disinterested we kind of were with Roxbury. Michelle saying I love Children of the Corn. Yeah, I actually haven't seen Children of the Corn in some time, so I watched it a bunch as a kid. And then we're going to do this commentary. So I'm kind of going into the commentary having read a bunch of production notes and stuff. So, you know, we like to make the commentaries a little bit informative as well as entertaining. But it's basically going to be me watching Children of the Corn for the first time in a long time, even though I remember it vividly. So we'll see how that turns out. Gary asks... are you doing Frankenstein Unbound? It's always been a favorite. No, I believe we are going to be doing the Kenneth Branagh directed Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I'll have to look at the list again, but I think that's true. We haven't started recording the next season yet, but we will be soon. Alan, hey, what's going on, Alan? Nice to see you. Says he's really looking forward to the next Pick Six, and hello. Yeah, that season is going to be fun. That's more my wheelhouse anyway, and some of the movies we're doing are, it's a real, like, hey, we're taking aim at our betters in a lot of ways. We'll be doing some movies that people really love, and having a good-natured ribbing involving those. So, yeah, I'm very excited to be doing the new season pretty soon. Probably next week is when we'll start recording those. What else? What else is going on? I had stuff to talk about. Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about what I've been watching. And Alan's making dinner. Delicious. I hope you brought enough to share with everyone, Alan. Otherwise, there's going to be big trouble. Hey, so let's talk about a movie that I just watched the other night, and I thought it was quite good. I've been thinking about it a little bit. It's a movie called Life After Beth, which is an A24 production, much like Hereditary and whatnot. And it's a movie that I've been it had been on my radar for sure, and I'd just never gotten around to watching it. And so the lovely lady and myself, we're looking for something to watch, and she had seen it and recommended it, and so there you have it. We watched it, and I didn't expect it to go as far as it did. In a lot of ways, there was certainly an element of comedy, to be sure. I thought it was a pretty funny movie. I think Molly Shannon shows up in that movie. I didn't even know she was in it, which made me happy. So it's Molly Shannon and John C. Reilly as the parents, Aubrey Plaza as Beth, the titular Beth, who dies when she's going alone on a hike, and then just shows up back at their door. And Dane DeHaan, that's a difficult name. But anyway, the guy who was the Green Goblin kid from those shitty Spider-Man movies. Anyway, he's the boyfriend, and he's obsessed with Beth. And even though they were kind of breaking up when she dies, he kind of forges this bond with John C. Reilly, the father. And then when she shows back up, he is delighted for sure, but also very aware that she could be a zombie, and like one of the like face-eating kind of zombies. And it ends up going to some pretty funny and also dark places. And the reason I wanted to bring it up, not only to say I thought it was a genuinely good movie and I had a really good time watching it, the other reason I want to bring it up, because I want to ask you guys, what are your favorite apocalypse films? I mean, this was a zombie apocalypse movie, and I like the fact that it does get around to kind of being not just a relationship movie, but it does get around to being a zombie apocalypse film towards the end of it. So I want to pose that question to you, and I'll catch up with Chad, and then I got some more thoughts on that. But Lee says Frankenstein Unbound is fun. Corman actually trying to make a good film, and a different film is always interesting. I don't know if I've seen that one. I should catch up with that. Michelle saying Aubrey Plaza is awesome. Yeah, she is. And Gary saying that Aubrey Plaza is a slight obsession of mine. Think Parks and Recreation for that. I'm a giant Parks and Recreation fan, and I agree. I think that she's great on that show. I like the fact that in Life After Beth, she's not really playing that character. She's not just kind of shitting on everything all the time. I really liked it. I like that about it. I liked that about it quite a bit. But yeah, so Gary saying The Road is really great. Yeah, that is a really good apocalypse film. I like, as far as zombie apocalypse movies, I think that I probably prefer Day of the Dead to Dawn of the Dead in terms of just the scope of the apocalypse. Those early scenes where, what's her name, Lori something, is riding around in the helicopter, and they go to, the cities where they're just alligators hanging out in the road and whatnot, and you can tell that, oh my goodness, society. If an alligator is in the road, let's just be honest. If you see an alligator in the street, society is crumbled, and there aren't people around like trying to get that alligator the fuck out of there. But yeah, I think Day of the Dead does a great job of capturing the apocalypse. It's tough because I think Walking Dead in the early goings of that show did a fine job as well of showing how quickly like things had just broken down. And that's kind of my favorite part of any zombie film. In fact, let us change our slide to discuss that more fully. The waves of the dead in Day of the Dead are far more impressive than in World War Z, says Lee Russell. Gary chiming in on Day of the Dead as well. Yeah. For sure. World War Z is a real bummer because that is one of the best books about the apocalypse. The apocalypse. I've been hypnotized by the apocalypse. It is kind of a bummer that World War Z is not a better movie. And, I guess it's a fun enough action film, but just the book is so good. And I think I've said it in every show I've ever been on, but World War Z would make such a great HBO series where you could do like a 10, 12 episode thing with it, Oh, that'd be so good. But yeah, I love movies where shit just starts falling apart and that you start to see that. And that's one of the things I liked about Life After Beth too, is that you have all these little moments where you start to see like things are going bad, some of my favorite moments in zombie films are like in Shaun of the Dead when they see just the zombie, like the one zombie early on in the movie that is like, I don't think that dude is okay. That's the stuff I find almost more terrifying when the apocalypse is creeping into day-to-day life, but it's not quite broken down yet, but you can see that like shit's about to go bad. Fear the Walking Dead, the first few episodes of that did a pretty good job as well. And it was that stuff I wanted to see. Like I wanted that show to kind of linger a bit in the normalcy of life. That yes, there is this like apocalypse on the way, but it ain't here just yet. And maybe slowing things down narratively and living in that space a little bit is kind of what I wanted that show to do, probably more than it did, which is a bit of a bummer. Like I don't dislike Fear the Walking Dead. I think it's been overall, I haven't watched the new stuff. I don't know, has anybody watching that? Is the new season with Morgan any good? All right, I thought the second season, I guess it was. I don't know who can keep up with those things anymore, but this not the first season, which I thought was kind of shaky, but the season after that, where there's all the stuff with the hotel and that kind of thing, I thought that was pretty good. Lee says, as much as I like zombie end of the world scenarios, Threads, the British post-nuclear apocalypse film, is the most horrifying. Threads is fucking disturbing. The last 20-30 minutes of Threads is maybe the most realistically terrifying stuff that I've seen in a film. You're right, Threads is just the worst. Alan Phoenix here. In my opinion, Fear has gotten better and better. I thought it was getting better, and I just haven't watched the recent stuff. But I mean, check that out. Stopped watching Walking Dead after half of season 2. Yeah, I mean, Walking Dead is problematic because there will be these random amazing episodes of the show. nestled into a season that is like 70% filler, and then you'll just have that one episode where you're like, why isn't this what this show is all the time? There was a great episode. I do not remember the title of the episode, but it was when Carol and one of the other characters, they had kind of splintered off the group, and they had two girls with them, one of whom was psychotic. And Carol, like the younger girl, the crazy one, thought that zombies were just kind of playmates, that she didn't appreciate the danger of them, and was also saying, well, you know, if I kill someone and they come back as a zombie, then that's just making them stay with me forever. And Carol, rightfully, is like, we need to do something about this girl, and whether it's abandon her or kill her or whatever. And the whole episode is sort of about this decision of, what do you do in the apocalypse with someone who is so crazy they become a threat to you. And I thought it was a great episode. Oh, Jason, sorry, man. Michelle stopped watching Walking Dead in season 2 as well. Yeah, it's like I said, it's problematic. I wish that it were a better show regularly, but there are times when it's great, and those times I you know, those are the times I cling to. But Jason says, my problem with both Walking Deads is they really fell into a formula of split the entire group up and then do an entire season of episodes focusing on one on each character until we come back together. Yeah, right. That's kind of you're right. That has become a formula, which is a bummer. Because the more interesting stuff is sort of like, how do you deal with this world? And the interpersonal stuff is fine, but I want to see the bigger concepts too, and that seems to be what maybe Fear the Walking Dead deals with a little bit more. Jason also says they've gotten a lot better at juggling that sort of stuff. Yeah, at any rate, as far as apocalypses go, I find the cusp of the apocalypse much more interesting than the Mad Max scenario, you know, where everything's gone to shit and you're just left dealing with it all. And not that that isn't good, and, you know, I mean, God knows Fury Road is one of the best movies ever made, but at the end of the day, it's also cool to see things falling apart, you know? It's the who was it? William Butler Yeats, you know, The Widening Gyre, the poem that talks about the sinner cannot hold and mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. And you want to, I think, at least for me, that's the thing I want to see, is when things start spinning and you start to see the pieces come off, you know, when people stop being polite and start being real, to quote MTV. So yeah, I think that stuff is real fun. I like a good apocalypse movie. I wish there were. It's one of those things where plenty of movies deal with like zombie apocalypses and stuff like that, but there aren't a bunch that come off the top of my head as far as like, oh, they did it completely right. You know, like Lee talking about Threads is, you know, that's one of the scariest apocalypses. Day After is kind of like that too. Day After is a more sanitized version of Threads. Threads is a lot more raw than Day After. Jason saying he does like the intense character stuff. Yeah, but it's got to be in service of something. It can't, like, it's not, the character stuff isn't good enough to carry the show. It just needs to be the flavor for all the crazy shit happening on the show, in my opinion. Lee says the first Mad Max is the start of it, the dystopia. You're right, like, but it's that, you know, I want the movie in between Mad Max and Road Warrior. You know, I want to see that storyline of how did Max go from he's this, you know, cop trying to stave off the dystopia that's coming, and, you know, him becoming the guy who is whistling and saying, if you want to get out of here, I'm your guy. Like, I want that middle piece. But it's great. Andrew here. Andrew, we will be talking soon. I mentioned what we're going to be doing here in a little bit a few minutes ago, so I'm excited about that. Alan says, how do you feel about The Signal? I like The Signal. I don't think it's perfect, but that's kind of, I'll tell you what movie does the apocalypse really well, even though it's not distinctly about that. I guess it is, but something like the Kaufman Invasion of the Body Snatchers, again, some of my favorite stuff in that movie is when you start seeing people getting chased through the streets and people are like, the fuck is going on over there? That kind of thing. I think all that stuff is great. On the Beach is a decent take on the coming into the world, but a product of its time, so a bit lightweight. On the Beach is really good, Lee. You're right about that. And Jason saying he's sorry for missing the last few weeks, missing notifications after the move from Facebook. Yeah, man, it's a process. Where the YouTube stuff, I think, is more consistent. We've got more content on the way, and there's the Meg review up here now and stuff like that. So again, if you guys haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do, so we can get rid of all the garbage URL. And it can just be youtube.com/channels/Legion Podcasts is what we're aiming for. But we got how many more? I think it's, I don't know. I think we need 14 more subscribers, something like that. Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there. Lee saying that the 78 invasion is frightening. It is. The 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers is legitimately one of the scariest movies I think ever made. What else do we want to chat about tonight? If you guys have any other apocalypse movies, throw them my way. I'm always on the hunt. Because I like them. I like a good apocalypse movie. I don't think most of them are as good as I want them to be. Because they don't deal with the thing that I want to see most of the time. There are a handful that, speaking of On the Beach, there are a couple of those Twilight Zone episodes that deal with impending nuclear devastation and seeing how people start to behave when you put that kind of pressure on them. And that stuff I find really fascinating. That's kind of my favorite stuff in zombie movies, even, or zombie shows, is people reacting badly to a bad situation. That people end up kind of screwing themselves more than the situation does. Alan saying Invasion 78 is the best movie with a heroic health inspector. You're probably right. I mean, I guess the other contender there would be the Larry the Cable Guy health inspector movie. I'm not sure that that's a great film. You may be right. I think you may have nailed it. So we talked about the YouTube channel, got the Meg thing. More video stuff is on the way. I finally figured out what my problem was getting video to process very, very slowly, which was causing everything to be a pain in the ass. And now that I've resolved that, I can start being stupid with the tools at my disposal, and I look forward to doing that. Probably do another review or two, as well as do this kind of stuff, and then we'll start hammering out the 100 best in Legion horror. So Slugs, did Slugs have a health inspector as one of the heroes? I don't remember that. It's been a while since I've seen Slugs. Abraham says, what about a film set in a dystopian future with mutants and zombies, but our hero is the Grizzly Bear from Grizzly? Fuck. All right, but hey, would it be completely without dialogue, like you do a Wall-E kind of thing, where just nobody talks, and it's just... I'll tell you, here's the movie I want to see, if you get right down to it, is I want to see the Grizzly from Grizzly, the one from Into the Grizzly Maze, and the Prophecy Mutant Bear. all in like a Three Amigos kind of scenario where they got to go save like a village from said mutants. I think you got yourself a movie at that point. Man, Into the Grizzly Maze is a movie we may end up doing a commentary on, because it's Into the Grizzly Maze and nobody has seen it, and it's great. It's Billy Bob Thornton as a hunter and a grizzly. It's got great grizzly on human violence. Abraham coming with me on the movie I'm pitching. It's going to be called The Three Bears. How about Mutant Locks and the Three Bears? I don't know. We'll workshop that a bit. Lee said he was about to mention Prophecy. It has a doctor from the Environmental Protection Agency. Yeah, EPA don't count. This has to be strictly health inspectors. I don't know. Let's see. Hold on. Movies with health inspectors as heroes. Let's see if there is a list here. Larry the Cable Guy, the health inspector. That's the only one that's coming up, even though we know for sure that Invasion of the Body Snatchers did have that. Google letting us all down, quite frankly. Alan says that's spot on, similar to a concept he had for Knight Rider and the Love Bug in the Maximum Overdrive universe. That's pretty good. I'm trying to think if there's a third. Because Knight Rider is good. Love Bug would work. Is there another? And I don't want to go Transformers. I'm trying to think of another benevolent car. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, maybe? Was that a sentient car? It's been a long time since I've seen that. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang would be the like the old Ray from, you know, the black hole, the old busted robot that's just like, hey partner, I don't work so good anymore. Can you give me some oil? The black hole is another one I want to do a commentary on. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the original OG Disney The Black Hole. The movie is fucked up in a way that Disney movies ain't fucked up anymore. That movie is fucked up. That movie ends in hell. It's good. So, Jason recommending the title Trizzlies, but that sounds too weird. Trizzlies. What about the Six Paws of Vengeance? Kind of go a little Shaw Brothers with it, maybe? I don't know. Leah's saying the Black Hole is amazing back when Disney was cool. The Black Hole is truly one of the weirdest, most disturbing movies I saw as a child. The Maximilian robot haunted my nightmares. It's at some point we're gonna talk about Black Hole. Alan says Black Hole in the theater. I was confused for years. Yeah, when somebody's like, "Hey, you want to go see a Disney movie?" and you're like, "Oh yeah, singing animals and shit," and then they plop you down in front of Black Hole, and it's like, "Oh hey, here's the guy from That Darn Cat being threatened with becoming a mindless automaton in service of a dark ruler." Black Hole is fucking great. I want to see the Black Hole now, is my problem. Then what were you talking about? Oh yeah, the YouTube channel. Yeah, so that's more video stuff on the way. Another reminder, if you go over to the Facebook page for Legion Podcast, not Legion Podcast, sorry, for Devour the Podcast, which is facebook.com/groups/ Devour the Podcast. There is a post. You got to scroll down a little bit at this point. But there's a post there. Or if you don't want to, you don't even have to post it there. If you just want to throw a suggestion in there. So in September, I'm going to do an average of a movie a day. I'm going to try to watch one every single day. Because, I don't do enough stuff. So, what I need are suggestions. I left to my own devices, I'm just going to watch the shit that I enjoy, which is fine. And, everybody does the 31 Days of Halloween, does movies then. but we're going to be busy in October. We got some shit brewing. So, rather than wait till October to do all that stuff, I'm going to do it in September. And also, it's one day shorter, so I only have to do 30 of them. But you guys recommend, a movie or two, and I'll put it on the list, and basically, so here's what's going to happen. Every week in September, I'm going to do a little bonus episode on Devour, the podcast. That is just me talking about the movies I watched, and if you suggest them, it makes it a little more entertaining because it's not just like, hey, here's what I watched, and I liked it because I picked the movies. If you guys want to be cruel, you can be, but, try to keep it readily available, something I can stream or get from Amazon or something like that. So please, recommend away. You can do it on the Facebook page. You can do it on Twitter at Legion Podcast. Because I'm doing all the Twitter stuff these days. I'm back behind the wheel of the Twitter account. So, be sure you follow us. And when you see me, writing stuff, it's mostly, at this point, it's like, hey, here are the shows that are being released. And every now and again, here's a cool bit of news. We're trying not to blow up anybody's Twitter feed. Because that's my problem with Twitter is how do you make it useful? How do you make your follows manageable? I don't like it when I look at my Twitter feed and it's like every 16 seconds there are 30 posts that you got to sort through. I mean, that at a certain point it just doesn't make any sense, and maybe Twitter doesn't make sense in general, but I'm trying to figure out how to use it in a way that it's useful to the person following Legion podcasts, Working on it. But follow Legion Podcast, because I'm not going to blow you up with shit. If something is retweeted, it's this guy doing it. And if I'm tweeting too much, you let me know. I don't think that's going to be the case, because I only do it 2-3 times a day. What else? Hey, let's talk about what's coming this week to the streaming services. This is always good for a laugh. So, not a ton, actually. Netflix has a movie called The Innocents. Or not a movie, is it a movie? Or a series? One of the two. Or an audio drama. Who can say, really? No, The Innocents is, it is a supernatural romance story. It's some teenagers, and one of them's a shapeshifter or something. It seems alright. Hulu and Amazon both, between now and when next we speak, are going to be airing the film Mother, making available the film Mother, the Darren Aronofsky retelling of the Genesis story. It's all right. Shudder, though. Now here's where we got some action. Shudder is saying is dropping All Cheerleaders Die. The Canal, which is a pretty interesting film. If you haven't seen The Canal, by all means, you should check that out. It's a pretty good ghost story. Heathers, the seminal Winona Ryder film. A movie, is it a movie? I looked this up. November. It is I believe a Swedish joint that is all about, I think it's a series, about a woman who may or may not have murdered a child by accident, and seems really weird. And another series called Angel Bee that is also Swedish. I think it's from the Jordskott folks, which is a series that is also available on Twitter. Lee says, Twitter is a constant swim upstream with pissed off freshwater sharks everywhere. Yeah, so here's what I did recently, and I apologize if the Legion Podcast Twitter account was following you guys and is no longer. So Ricky, God bless him. Here's a little how the sausage is made kind of stuff. So Ricky was handling our social media stuff for a while, the Legion Podcast stuff. And he did a fantastic job. Like I've said before, he did exactly what we asked him to do, which was, let's try to get more followers. The problem that I was seeing, as a bit more of like looking at the data part of it, was, yeah, we had all these followers, but there was nobody actually, like, there weren't click-throughs, right? It wasn't people seeing stuff on the Legion podcast feed and then interacting with it. And that's what you want. You know, you want to say, hey, here's what we're doing on the site. Twitter is another arm of that to say, here's what's happening. Come check it out. And instead, like, yeah, we had a ton of followers, but, and followed a ton of people, but there wasn't a whole lot of interaction there. So what I ended up doing was going through and like unfollowing like 4,000 accounts. And I was just like, this is all stuff that it's, you know, people that we would friend, or the account would friend, and they would friend back, and you would, you know, you retweet what they do and blah, blah, blah. And at a certain point, I just couldn't find the utility in that. And as a result, like I said, I ended up taking it back over. No, actually, I wasn't like putting the hammer down. It was just like Ricky was like, I don't have time to do this anymore. I was like, all right, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. And so, you know, that's how I've been doing it. And the result has been that more people, even though we don't follow a bunch of people and have lost, you know, at this point, as of this recording, like 1,200 followers have been shaken off the Legion podcast account. But we also, the interaction between Twitter and the website and the shows offered there is up, because I think it's curating the content a little bit and making it so that the Legion podcast Twitter feed isn't just, here's a bunch of stuff. It's a little bit more directed. And I mean, I could be doing more with it, but I also just am not crazy about social media as a rule. It is difficult for me because it's one of those things. It's like eating your vegetables, you know. I don't like it, but I got to do it. And but I have found that Twitter has become much more friendly to the point about the freshwater sharks. I don't follow that many people, and as soon as someone starts piping off about something that, and I don't mean just being, you know, political or something like that, even though I tend to kind of unfollow on that basis for that account, just because I'm like, I don't, you know, unless it's about Psychosemantic or something like that, which is a political show in nature. It's like, look, I get plenty of pissed off about what's going on in the news every day. I don't need Twitter for that. So yeah, it's like I'm following people who are talking about stuff that is related to horror, and as a result, it's pretty good. Like when I go on Twitter, it's stuff most of the time that I want to see. And that's a nice change of pace. And if someone is a real douchebag, early on and starts piping off about something, I either unfollow them, or if they start messaging the Legion account and are being, kind of dickish about it, then you can just mute them, which is my favorite thing to do, because that way they think you're getting those messages, but they're really just screaming into the void, which is really what social media tends to be anyway. So I like that. Let's see. Jason saying he thinks that's the plot of Sharknado 7 about the pissed off freshwater sharks. Probably. And Lee says, I'm terrible at self-promotion as well. It's a pain. Yeah, and it's just not my nature. As a rule, I'm like, you know, please like this stuff. You don't have to, but if you did, that'd be cool, right? Wouldn't it be fun if we all did this thing together? I'm very hippy dippy most of the time when it comes to stuff like that. My hot takes are not that hot. My hot takes are mostly, I mean, I get a little feisty about some stuff, but as a rule, I'm much more interested in the things that we can celebrate together than the things that we can tear down together. You know, destruction is easy, creation is the hard part, and I'm far more interested in the creation part of it. That's a little something you can carry with you as you go forth about your life. Hey, so look, I think that's going to about wrap it up. This was fun, though. Thanks for all the conversation. That it always makes it better when you guys are just kind of chit-chatting and asking questions and stuff like that. It's my favorite. When I do these, that's my favorite thing. So a couple of quick notes before we get out of here. One, the Patreon thing is going to launch September 1st-ish. It's going to be, two tier levels, $2, $5, $5 if you're fancy or nasty, if you're Janet Jackson. But the $2 gets you most of the stuff. The $5 is really just saying, like, I really like you guys and I want you to have a little extra scratch. The $2 level, though, gets you the two exclusive, Patreon exclusive director's commentaries that we're going to do every month. It's going to be, some people from around the network getting together to chit chat during one of the films. So hopefully it's not too much out of pocket, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll tweak as necessary and that kind of thing. It's all going to be real fluid, but keep an eye out for that over the next week or so. You're going to start seeing a lot more about that. What else? There was something else I want to mention to you guys. The Patreon thing. I don't know. It'll come to me later. We'll do it. Keep your eyes peeled here. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. No. Kidding. But anyway, what you can do for me, though, folks, is have yourselves a great rest of the week. Have a fantastic weekend coming up. And I will see you right back here on the very next Morbid Monday. So thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.